you know, you're here at the meeting. There's a reason why you're here. That's what I was told. When I first came in, I was 26 and I went to a meeting in the Salvation Army, and everyone was older and, of different color and stature. Like most people lived in the Salvation Army. They had lost everything. I was just like a kid, a construction worker coming in trying to get sober. And they told me, you're in the right place. Come back tomorrow. What happened was they showed me love. They gave me hugs after the meeting and they said, "We want you to come back." It may not be that Alcoholics Anonymous is for you. You may not think that you're an alcoholic. You may not be an alcoholic, but you're welcome here no matter what. And if you want to just come back and give it a shot, it may work for you.
I heard it through the grapevine. Welcome. It's the AA Grapevine half-hour variety hour featuring the collected voices of Alcoholics Anonymous. I'm Sam, an alcoholic in Palm Springs, California.
And I am Olis, an alcoholic in Oakland, California.
Olis, it's great to see you. I was in a meeting earlier today and I heard a term that I have not heard in a meeting.
What?
Returnee. So instead of calling someone a newcomer when they come back to the program from having slipped or gone out entirely, this person referred to them as a returnee. And it just kind of like, I've got chills thinking about it because it's always been one of those things that someone who has been around for 10 years and then went out and then came back, they're not a newcomer.
No, they're not a newcomer. I actually like the term because people are returning. Often you'll hear folks say in meetings, "Welcome home."
Yeah.
Welcome back. And it's because people are returning.
Yeah.
I mean, when people leave for whatever reason and they come back, there's this, which I think is so unfortunate, this feeling of like shame or guilt or whatever. And I think we don't lose the information that we got the first time we were in Alcoholics Anonymous or any of the time. So for anybody who has gone out and is coming back, welcome home.
Welcome back and welcome home. Yes, I love that. It's a new month, and you know what that means. The new grapevine is here. Woohoo! The new grapevine's here.
Yeah, I'm excited.
Oh, come on now. Give me some real excitement.
I am totally excited about the new grapevine. This one's juicy.
It is. Hey, Alice, the August 2024 issue, it's got a focus on dating and relationships.
Our editor writes, when we finally put down the bottle and get sober, we get to take a good look at our past relationships. Many of us find it daunting. Some of us even learn how to date in sobriety for the first time. Thanks to good sponsorship, the steps, and the fellowship, there's a lot of hope and great AA tools to help us. This month, we feature powerful stories by members about dating and relationships in sobriety.
In the sweet story, It's Worth the Work, a sober guy, through experience good and bad, learns about love, faith, and sharing the fun. He says, "When I looked back at the first 10 years of my sobriety, I realized that I didn't owe any of these women amends. Sure, there were plenty of mistakes made, but I had righted those at the time. I was having relationships with people and not causing any real harm." Wow.
That's, for the first 10 years, really impressive. I certainly can't say that for the first 10 years. Maybe I wasn't aware of the harm. There's this thing recently that my friend Ralph brought to my attention, which is retroactive amends. Like, I didn't think it was wrong at the time that I did it, but as I grow spiritually and I look back, I can realize that I made some mistakes, but I'm really impressed by this.
It is impressive. And look at you talking about peeling the onion yet more.
Peeling the onion. Yeah. I mean, I love that point of view. I mean, unlike drinking or even drunk relationships, it is possible to date and to be responsible with our feelings and the feelings of other people.
Novel concept.
In the story, Love at First Sight, a woman, after 5 months sober, does a few steps and is ready to date again. What could possibly go wrong? She tells her sponsor's husband, quote, I will never date anyone in AA ever again. He tilts his head back and looks at her and says, what if you just got to know someone better?
I mean, I've got a thought around that because
Come on, let's hear it.
now, and maybe it's different in other circles, but in my experience in the gay world, dating is getting to know someone.
Let me tell you what my sponsor told me. I'm single and I'm happily single. And so my sponsor's like, look, Alice, in Alcoholics Anonymous, the odds are good that you'll find someone, but the goods are odd.
Yes.
Never a truer statement. It's like the land of the misfit toys. I'm not talking about y'all. I'm talking about me, man. Yeah.
So we've adopted broken animals in our home for years, like a one-eared, no-tailed cat and things like that. We're the island of misfit joys.
Ah, I love that. Misfit joys.
There you go.
I think that this dating in Alcoholics Anonymous is closely tied to the thing that we get when we get here, which is a sense of belonging,
Mm.
to be seen, to be known, to be welcomed. And it's easy, I think, particularly in the very beginning when we're really hungry for that, to, make some romantic decisions based on wanting to seek ease and comfort.
Thankfully, there's a lot of information that's in the Grapevine and in the Grapevine archives, as well as shared in meetings about all of this.
Boy meets girl on AA campus.
Alice, in the story Love and Acceptance, an AA couple makes a memorable deal that's worked beautifully for 34 years. I won't spoil it, but it has something to do with taking each other's inventory, which can be a problem in relationships.
I went to Founders Day recently, and Debbie D out of Concord did this beautiful talk on the traditions and related them back to our lived experience, right? The traditions aren't like some far off thing. And she got to tradition 10. The group doesn't have an opinion on outside issues. And she said that in her relationship, that her opinion of her spouse is an outside issue. There's no reason to tell him, zip it up. But I love the idea in a relationship, sometimes our opinions are not to be shared. They're outside issues.
Interesting.
No opinions.
I might have to dig a little on that one. I got some learning to do.
And a newcomer recently dumped finds true love and sobriety in the story, My New Boyfriend. Her new guy might surprise you. Go check it out in the Grapevine.
Wow, Alice, this issue is packed. So, who's our guest today?
Our guest is Doug from Long Island. And Doug is the author of the story It's Worth the Work on page 12 of the August 2024 issue. Super excited to welcome him today.
But first, the news. The National Corrections Conference will be happening in Charlotte, North Carolina this year, December 11th and 12th. Registration is officially live and can be found at nationalcorrectionsconference.org.
You can give a gift subscription of Grapevine or Lavinia.
Grapevine has a long waiting list of incarcerated members who want one. Get your group, district, area, or AA friends to join in.
It's easy. Go to aagrapevine.org and look for Carry the Message at the top of the site.
Thank you so much for having me. My name's Doug. I'm an alcoholic from Long Island, New York. My sobriety date is February 15th of 2004. So this February I celebrated 20 years.
Sweet. What led you to write a story for Grapevine, and was it difficult?
I don't know if you guys know this, but I wrote a story for the Grapevine 10 years ago, around the time I celebrated 10 years. And this is kind of a follow-up to that story.
Oh,
So that was in the February issue of 2014. So as a New Yorker, I believe that most of the Grapevine work is done in New York, the
Mhm.
offices at least. And one of the members of my old home group when I lived in the city for so long worked for the Grapevine. And he was the one who first convinced me to write that initial story
Ah,
10 years ago. He also came up to me a while back and said, "Hey, we're doing another relationship-based issue of the Grapevine next year. Would you like to write a follow-up story?" And it just so happened to be 10 years later, pretty much exactly. So it worked out really well. Yeah.
how perfect. I love that. Now I got to go back into the archives and see if I can find that February 2010 issue.
2014. Back then it was the cover story and it was called My Messy Valentine.
All
Yes, because I
right.
got sober on February 15th, which is one day after Valentine's Day, obviously.
Oh, okay.
I now understand how it could have been messy.
It was quite messy Valentine.
Doug, what was going on in your life that led you to come to Alcoholics Anonymous?
So what happened to me was in the process of my drinking, I got mixed up with a lot of other things. I am in the construction field and I got in trouble at work and had to go to rehab. I didn't get sober right away, but I eventually got sober through that process.
So rehab introduced you to Alcoholics Anonymous as part of that?
Correct. Yeah.
I have to just ask, can I know about the messy Valentines? We all want to know.
Okay. So yeah, I was in a relationship and it was a rocky relationship because this was at the bottom, the height of my drinking and other usage. We had been in many, many drama related arguments and stuff before, but at this time we were okay and we went out for what's supposed to be a romantic Valentine's Day. And we went to this place downtown Manhattan on First Avenue between First and Second. A little place. It's no longer there, but when you got there, there was rose petals everywhere, and it was very romantic. And through the course of the dinner, I blacked out, like as I'm a blackout drinker. The next thing I know, I was standing in front of my apartment building by myself. And, through getting sober and making amends, I ended up piecing the story together. My girlfriend and I had gotten into a big fight and we took two separate cabs. But when I came to, I didn't know this. So I called her and called her. She didn't answer. And then I had the bright idea to call her parents to see if they knew where she was. And this is a Saturday night, like 11:30 at night. I'm obviously drunk and I don't know where their daughter is. So it wasn't the best situation. And
Mhm.
she shows up because, again, had taken two separate cabs. She shows up after, and now she had spoken to her parents, and, the drama ensues. She goes upstairs and takes whatever belongings she has in my apartment and she leaves. And I decided after that to go back out drinking. And I linked up with some buddies and drank the rest of the night. I came to the next morning, February 15th, 2004. I still don't know the exact reason why I had enough when I woke up that next day, but I knew that I had to make a change.
Yeah.
The only action I took that morning was I got on the edge of the bed and I just looked up and asked for help.
Yep. Did you do the alcoholic prayer? God help me.
I didn't do the part where I said, if you make this right, I'll never do it again. I just said, I need help.
Yeah.
And what did you do next?
That was a Sunday morning. The next day, I went back to the rehab that I was no longer mandated at.
Mhm.
And they said, you can come back for more sessions, but if you want to stay sober, you have to go to AA. And that was the first time I wanted to stay sober. So I went to my first meeting at a Salvation Army in Hell's Kitchen.
Yep.
That's how it began. I went to my first meeting and I've been sober ever since.
You used a phrase that made my ears perk up, and that was piecing it together. I recall so many times trying to piece together what happened the night before.
Hmm.
Even to the point where the drunk Sam was leaving hungover Sam, not notes of what had happened.
I've never heard anybody leaving themselves notes. This
Oh
is
yeah.
serious.
But the piecing together thing, you just took me back there, Doug.
Well, I could even go a little further when I first started telling my story, it was very short. Like I just didn't know what to say. I didn't remember enough. But in going to meetings over and over and over again, listen to other people's stories, I started to think, oh, wow, I did that. And oh, wow, I did that. And there was even one time where I heard a woman speak and she had mentioned suicidal thoughts. And I was like, oh my God,
Yeah.
I forgot that when I was a teenager, I wanted to kill myself. I completely erased it from my memory.
Yeah.
It took me to going to meetings and listening to other people's experiences to remember my own experience.
The beauty of meetings in a lot of ways is that you hear things that are true for you that you don't even know are true for you before you hear them.
Yeah.
But Doug, what was the thing that first got you into that rehab?
I went for work-related reasons because I failed the drug test.
Oh,
Mhm.
And my attitude when I was there was that I was just there for drugs. But a seed was planted. I got to hear about what sobriety was like and there were people in the room that were trying to stay sober. And when that Valentine's Day happened and I woke up the next day, I kind of connected the fact that, oh, it's not just the drugs and oh, it's not just the alcohol, it's everything.
yeah.
Doug, so you've been sober for 20 years. I'm going to take a stab in the dark here and say that you've worked the steps.
Yes, I have. I have gone to. I got a sponsor when I was counting days. We were together for the first couple of years and we didn't finish the step work, but we did step work together. And then he moved and I ended up working with his sponsor, my initial grant sponsor,
Mhm.
and we worked together to go through the rest of the steps. Years later I did them again, but yeah, that was my first pass at it.
Was there anything in working those steps that you were resistant to?
To be honest, not really. It was kind of more the opposite, I think, because my sponsor's take on it was to do things very slowly, and I know everybody has their different ways. For me, that worked. We did things slowly, but as time went on, and like all my, let's call them peers, people with the same amount of time as me,
Mhm.
had already done their fourth step and were on their ninth step mens, and I was like, quote unquote, lagging behind.
Right.
I started to be anxious to do them. I wanted to do them.
Interesting. Yeah.
So, I don't think, I mean, there were probably some amends that I was nervous about doing, but for the most part, I was pretty all in at that point. I've been very blessed with the fact that I've just always gone to meetings and always seen and just known deep down that this could really help me. So I've never really been resistant to the program. I've just kept working at it as best I can.
The thing that is so striking is, it's always darkest before the dawn, right? The messy Valentine's Day is not a high point. But here you are 20 years later. Could you share the thing about your life today that's most surprising, the thing that your recovery has given you that you didn't see that coming, but wow.
One of the most beautiful things I've received from Alcoholics Anonymous is the ability to be in the moment.
Hmm.
You know, I'm not perfect at it and I'm actually not very good at it, but the times that I am in the moment, it is really a beautiful and wonderful thing. And the thing that I can think of most clearly that's happened in my life recently is I was married at one point, so now I'm remarried. I'm remarried now. My wife and I had a lot of trouble um, having a baby. It was years and years of trying this, going to this doctor, doing that, doing that, doing this. And all along, time is not stopping. I'm getting older and older and older and older. And the thing inside of me kept saying, "Oh, you're gonna be an old dad." And I kept thinking, when my child is so and so age, I'm gonna be 60 and I'm not gonna be able to do this and that. And all that came to us. My wife did get pregnant and we had a baby, and she's just over a year old now.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah. And I wasn't able to see certain things like being a parent at 46. I am so much more able to appreciate every moment with her,
Yeah.
my daughter. It's so beautiful to be around her and watch her grow and like watch her learn things, like learn just when she says a new word and I'm there to witness it. It's really an amazing, amazing moment. And I don't think that Doug, who was still drinking, even if I had kids when I was younger, I don't think he would have appreciated those things
Yeah.
that I can appreciate now.
Yeah. I heard recently you can't fake being present.
Yeah.
And you'll hear around the rooms the beauty of the pause that we're asked to do. The 11th step talks about pause, is that's where God is. God is in the pause, God is in now. So thank you for sharing that. Like, how beautiful.
It is beautiful. Doug, what does a day or a week in your recovery life look like now?
Well, now is very different than it used to be, but now since we've moved to Long Island and we have a brand new baby, well, not a brand new, but a 1 year old at home, a lot of my meetings are on Zoom at the moment. I just for time reasons, I get up early for work and construction. I get home, and then there's a lot of responsibilities I have with my wife and my baby. So I just try to squeeze in as many meetings as I can. If I get to go to a one or two in-person meetings as well as Zoom meetings during the week, that's just a bonus. And then I have good communications with my sponsor, who I still talk to at least once a week and check in with. And I have two sponsees that check in with me. But yeah, to be perfectly honest, my life at the moment, I'm trying my best to be the best father I can be. And now, that being said, I know I have to stay sober and go to meetings in order to do that, but I don't have any commitments at meetings or anything like I used to. I used to always have commitments at meetings and used to go to in-person meetings like every day of the week and do fellowship afterwards. And at the moment in my life, I just don't have that much time for that stuff, but I'm doing the best I can.
Yeah. I mean, you and I both came in at 26 years old. Like, life changes, it unfolds, and my recovery today doesn't look like it did when I first got here either. And there's nothing wrong with that. We show up and we're present for the hand that we're dealt. So congratulations on the baby and 2 articles in the Grapevine.
Indeed. Meditation, is that a part of your regular practice?
Meditation was probably the weakest point of my sobriety for a long time. And through my new marriage, my wife does meditation very often. And she got me into it. We went to a meditation retreat in California at one point. Recently, we did 100-day practice that we were doing, which involved meditating both in the morning, at night. And so only recently, the last couple of years, have I really seen the benefits of meditation. I do enjoy doing it, and I try to make the time to do it, for sure.
What does your meditation practice look like?
I try to sit in silence, the best silence I can, and I listen to my breathing. That's what's best for me. And once in a while, my wife will put on a guided meditation, which is nice.
That's great. I like knowing the different ways that people meditate because I like to try things on, because meditation still proves to be my weakest point. So thank you.
For anybody who hasn't figured out how to get to long-term sobriety, what do you think the secret has been for you?
First of all, this is the second time. Both of you have now referred to the fact that I have long-term sobriety. I don't feel that way. I guess I can't really deny it. I mean, I guess 20 years is a long time. I really don't feel that way though. So it's weird when I hear you guys say that and you're talking about me, you know? But I can only give you the advice of what worked for me. And for me, it's all about service, at least in the beginning. Obviously the step work and, going to meetings and have a sponsor, all those things are very important. But for me, I jumped into service as soon as I had 90 days. I started doing the coffee at a meeting. And as soon as I had enough time, I started chairing meetings. And as soon as I had enough time, I became the treasurer and this and that. A few years in, I started taking a meeting to a hospital.
Ah,
And that was the most rewarding service. I did a hospital meeting probably at least once a month for about 15 years.
Oh,
And I would
wow.
go on Christmas Eve, I would go on Thanksgiving, whatever day it fell on, I would go. And it would be the most rewarding coming out of that hospital. Even if I thought none of the people heard anything, it's still, when I left that building, I knew I had done a good service that day, and kept myself sober in the process.
Doug, I don't know if you're fully conscious of it, but you just talked about all 3 sides of the triangle. Unity, which is the meetings. You talked about recovery, which is our step work, and you talked about service. And I love that you talked about hospital and institution work. That's where I began. And I agree with you. Sometimes I'd leave and I was like, I don't think anybody heard a thing I said, but I planted a seed today. Yeah.
Yeah. I have this one story that a member of my old home group in Manhattan was at the meeting I brought to the hospital. And we told him, come to the meeting, so on and so forth, when you get out of here. And he came and he stayed sober. And now he's got, I don't know, 16 years of sobriety.
Oh,
And
wow. That's really special.
yeah, every time I see him, it reminds me. And he's blossomed into a person who does extreme amounts of service.
As a member of Alcoholics Anonymous, I am more likely to have the opportunity to see how the work that I do helps someone else than people who are just out in the world being humans. And I think that's such a wonderful gift when I'm regularly going to Alcoholics Anonymous meetings and active in the fellowship. I do get to see those things from time to time. I remember a long time ago, we were talking about the passage in the big book about going out to the nearest baroom and trying some controlled drinking. And I had done a share about that. And a woman listened to me, and then she went out and did it. And she came back about a year later and talked to me about what that effect was. All kinds of things like that happen. So to experience that this person that was in the hospital that you took a meeting to, and 16 years later, you still get to see them. That's fantastic.
Yeah, it really is special. And we both celebrate in February. So when I go back to the old home group for the February anniversary meeting, we get to celebrate together. So it's very
that's even better.
Yeah.
Doug, thank you so much for joining us today. It's been a real pleasure chatting with you and getting to know you a bit.
Thank you guys so much for having me, man.
Thanks to everyone who subscribes to the Grapevine magazine in print or in the AA Grapevine app. Your support makes this podcast possible. Hey, Ruby, we missed you. How have you been?
It's been stressful. My husband and I are no longer together.
Oh, why?
Would you want to live with someone who drank all day, cussed up a storm, didn't work, wouldn't help with household chores, and didn't cook any meals?
No, I wouldn't want to do that.
Well, neither did he.
It's really not that funny. Thanks for joining us. The AA Grapevine Half Hour Variety Hour is posted every Monday and is produced by AA Grapevine Inc. We don't speak for AA as a whole. We share the experience, strength, and hope of members to help others recover from alcoholism. Podcast info, including how to call in, is at aagrapevine.org/podcast. Search AA Grapevine in the App Store on your phone or find AA Grapevine on Instagram and YouTube. All things Grapevine are available at aagrapevine.org. If you want to know more about AA, search online for Alcoholics Anonymous in your city or visit aa.org.
That was freaking amazing.